Okay, so you clicked on today's video. This is not a green hell video. This is actually about forests. You know, I had a lot more for this. I just yes, this video is going to be about the forest, but we're not talking about the game. We're talking about, well, that is on the list, but you get the point. The woods, jungles, and how much they've changed over the last 20, 30 years in gaming. I remember being introduced to FPSs and jungle environments as a little kid playing SOCOM Bravo Team. Now in 2005, this was a densely compact forest. But some of you people who might be older than me, if you weren't born in the year 2000, would probably remember something like this. Or something along the lines of whatever this is, because apparently this, in the 90s, was what forests look like.
Come on, man.
2, maybe 4 trees at most was a forested area, until these companies at the time considered indie, that became AAA over time, decided to change everything. Especially with the advancements in technology for games. What a weird time it was to be a kid, because there was a point where I was sitting there wondering if this ever would happen. And it did. By 2008, games had put a major focus on environment rather than gameplay, because gameplay was not new anymore. It had been about 20 years. There was a major push from Nintendo, Activision, and plenty of other companies that we know that are still going today, like EA. These companies made it very, very environment focused from the years of 2004 to 2008. By 2008, we started seeing it being pushed into every game, with some of the games including Burnout, Need for Speed, Call of Duties like Modern Warfare 1 and World at War, and even Nintendo's Wii Sports from 2006. As the years went on, 2009 came around, and 2010, we've seen advancements like Modern Warfare 2, with the SAS's involvement in Rio as a hunt. That went horribly wrong. Yeah, we understand. Blood all over the place. To the sunny Asian Caucasus Mountains, where Ghost and Roach are violently murdered by Shepard. Ah, look at those wonderful mountains. Yeah, there's Ghost. And probably the biggest jump in graphics when it comes to jungled biomes, Black Ops 1. Now this was the first game to fully focus on a jungle environment. To not exclude them, I'm also going to give an honorable mention to Battlefield Vietnam, because that also did inspire the future of battlefields to have a lot of trees in them too, which I'm getting to. Now back to 2011. Sure, it had some Russian themes to it, but for the most part, this was a Vietnam game. It sold so strongly, this was the biggest turning point for trees and fauna in the gaming industry. And it came at the start of a new decade.
Mason. Woods, you look like having shit.
The 2010s. God, that's so weird to say. 2011 was a big year for all of this, because not only is Call of Duty holding it with its jungle themes, you have, at the end of this year, Minecraft and Dead Island also released this year. And at the same time that these games are launching, so is EA and DICE with Battlefield 3. This was one of the most environment-intensive games to hit the market at the time, which that environment was completely surpassed in Battlefield 4 in 2014. One of the most iconic Battlefield 3 maps being Caspian Border. And COD had dropped Modern Warfare 3 this year. It seemed like a pretty big year for War on Your Wallet. All these companies were trying everything they can to really sell the fact that console and PCs were evolving, and this meant that they could flush out environments. Now, when 2011 ended, most games didn't really progress past the way they looked here visually. That is, for a few games like Crysis, Just Cause, The Last of Us Part 1, and even Grand Theft Auto 5. The only thing is, Grand Theft Auto 5 didn't go too much in depth with it, they just did what we know as Chiliad Forest. I think this is gonna get blown out of the water with Grand Theft Auto 6. Then lands us on our next big year for game development when it comes to any sort of environment. 2016, but I'll also rope in the end of 2015 as well, because some things came out there. Now at this point, games like Rust and Ark Survival had launched, but I'm not going to count Rust just yet because they didn't release their jungle biome until 2025. One of my personal favorites that still holds up today from this year is Battlefield 1, more specifically with Oregon Forest. This map was really telling where we were when it came to the gaming industry and how much the old gen consoles could actually handle. Now this looks great on PC, but in 2016 when this was the newest game, this was phenomenal. And it still holds a lot of weight in 2025, especially with the hype building around Battlefield 6. This is where I think EA really shined the most. It was after this that things just went south. This year specifically was the biggest jump in greenery for games since 2010. Even into 2025, some of these specific games are still being played or have gotten full-blown remasters. This is the year that Dead Island got both Riptide and Dead Island Original remastered in definitive editions. They just made it look more green. But you also have games like Uncharted 4, which were heavily in the tropics. Mafia 3, as much as people are critically acclaimed about that game, it does visually look very outstanding for the 60s. In terms of the Louisiana biome, obviously when the newer gens came out the year prior, it allowed for games like Ubisoft to expand upon their Far Cry 4, so they made Far Cry Primal, which was also very dense for a game. This being one of the games that was really pushing the forest biomes. I kind of skipped over Far Cry 4, that's also in there, but that was a 2014 game. And at this point, from 2014 to 2016, Ubisoft is actually taking the center stage when it comes to exploration games with their Assassin's Creed games, with their Ghost Recon games, which is coming up. Now that leads us to the late 2010s. The late 2010s being 2017, 2018, and 2019. This is where we've seen a giant jump before it's halted by 2020 for obvious reasons. Games were rapidly intensifying like the hurricanes that were currently happening at this time. This is where you see the promotion for Red Dead 2 begin. By this point, it was already delayed at least once. You also see hints of a game that's coming out in 2019 called Days Gone, and Wildlands is officially released. These games are going to rapidly accelerate the demand for single-player games before 2018, which is the year that the gaming industry is shook into its core by live service. This kicks the door wide open for indie companies, as all AAA game studios become live service. Smaller indie companies get their shot. Most of the games that came out in this time period are currently still active today, whether it's a single-player or multiplayer game. Now, where do the environments fall in all this? Well, 2018 hit, and we get God of War, The Forest, and Red Dead Redemption 2. These games in that year carried the torch and heavily influenced the way that environments are to this day. You see it in all the games that you play today, whether you are playing Sons of the Forest or updated versions of your games on Unreal Engine 5. And to think that all of that came from just this little pixel and the increasing technology we have, to the vast amount of gaming engines that we have that allow you to be able to see trees as if it were real life. Now this brings us to our very final year of a stable gaming industry, not a recovering one like we are currently in now in 2025. 2019. 2019 was the last official year before our entire world would change forever. And world events had a serious adverse effect on games after this year. This year was also dropping back-to-back bangers, especially with the improvements of graphical quality. Days Gone was the first runner-up of the year, and this game really put a standard for what 2019 was going to shape up to be when it came to the trees and environments. Backwater Oregon is a perfect setting for a giant forest, especially during a zombie apocalypse. Then came Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, arguably the best Call of Duty that has ever released, and somehow the worst. This game specifically showed a milestone for Infinity Ward with the improvements in their engine since the last time I talked about them, which was 10 years prior. Then comes Jedi Survivor. I meant to say Fallen Order. Survivor, showcasing what Indie and EA look like. Kashyyyk looked pretty good, but I don't think it was enough to really pull off the look that I'm going for, photorealism. But it still was a serious advancement for EA. And last, but not least, the indie company that made Death Stranding, one of the most beautiful looking games out of this entire year, with its photorealistic mountainsides and densely populated tree areas. This year was a good year and kind of a focal point into where we had come from the 90s. Then, this happens.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus. Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
Following the pandemic, most workers were working from home. This crippled the momentum of development for games. And many games were delayed until further notice. Some of the games that suffered the hardest were Call of Duty and Battlefield. Two titles that were in post-production through the late 2010s finally got their spotlight in the middle of the pandemic, Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. With the world finally standing back up, we didn't see the momentum that was ground to a halt in 2019 continue until 2023. N-Night decided to make their grand return with a new title called Sons of the Forest, or as others would like to call it, The Forest 2, the new and improved version of their 2018 title, which I referenced earlier in this video. This is by far, as of 2025, still one of the best looking Forest games you can play, because it's literally called The Forest. The second game to hold its largest value at this point in time is Ark Survival Ascended. Even with its critical acclaim and hateful yet disappointed audience, reigns to be one of the most visually pleasing games that you can possibly play on any sort of console. And at the very top of this list is Rust, with their 2025 Jungle Update. They are currently the most recent game studio to hold the jungle biomes and really just push this whole thing forward. I would also like to say The Witcher as well, the most recent one and the new one that's coming out. I needed to add those in there. I have spent the last few months weeding out what games look the best and are most visually pleasing for this list, and I would say at the very top of it all is going to be Sons of the Forest. I've had this video idea in my head for the last 3 years, and this has been the entire history since 1990 all the way until 2025. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to subscribe down below. It does help me a lot. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subs. And don't forget to leave a like and comment down below what you guys think about the history of the trees in video games, because it's always intrigued me ever since I was a little kid. You can follow me on X and on Instagram. There's a train. Thank you guys so much for watching. It has been 𝘍𝘢𝘵𝘢𝘭𝚚𝘩𝘮.